Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Litmus video tutorial. I'm Karthik, maintainer of the Litmus project. In our previous tutorials, we have spoken about the need for cloud native chaos engineering. We discussed about the Litmus chaos architecture. We took a deep dive. We got started with a simple pod delete chaos experiment. And then we saw the various abstractions that you could run chaos with. For example, you saw how you can construct chaos scenarios using Argo workflows and Litmus experiments. Today we'll touch upon another interesting and very important topic in chaos engineering called as hypothesis. You must have heard about hypothesis. In fact, we have touched upon this in our previous discussions. So hypothesis is essentially a supposition or an expectation about system behavior. When you induce certain chaotic actions on your cluster, what happens to your application? How does the infra respond when you're trying to kill or induce certain faults or kill certain nodes or pods or remove the network? What happens to your downstream applications? What happens to the overall system stability? Do the SLOs continue to be met, or is there something that's going really wrong with your system which you need to go back and fix? Hypothesis is the seed for further investigation into your system and to learn more about the system behavior. Oftentimes, the hypothesis directly translates to an expected result. Sometimes it is only a hint to further investigation, and you might actually derive more solid expected results out of your hypothesis after prolonged experimentation. In today's discussion, we'll talk about hypothesis a little bit more. In fact, we'll talk about what is called declarative hypothesis in cloud native chaos engineering and how Litmus aids that using a feature called Litmus probes. This is expected to be a multi-part series. In today's discussion, we'll talk about Litmus probes a little bit, look at the various kinds of Litmus probes and what modes they operate in, what their properties are, how you can use them. And in subsequent discussions, we'll construct complex probes using the Litmus probe infrastructure and ensure that our experiments are looking for the right information and are doing the right kind of validation against the expected hypothesis. So let's get started. All right. Before we get into declarative hypothesis, let's take a look at hypothesis generally in the context of chaos engineering. It is one of the important principles of chaos. As you can see, it is listed on the principles of chaos.org website also. It says one of the advanced principles and one of the important ones is to build a hypothesis around steady state behavior. Now, this word steady state is actually very interesting. It basically talks about measuring the output of a system. You're going to look at how the system, you're going to look at the fact whether the system is working rather than really check how the system is working. You're going to look at some measurable attributes of your system which indicate that things are all good. Many times this can translate into certain performance values, latency percentiles, IOPS in case of storage applications, or availability in case of your application being always available. This is the 5969 availability that people talk about. It can also mean a lot of other things. It can mean how frequently checks against your data infrastructure is returning values which tell you that the database is sane or whether infrastructure is clean. It could also mean something related to security. There are a lot of perspectives around steady state. So steady state is something that you would measure and always track. And a hypothesis during a chaos experiment typically relates to checking whether your steady state is maintained even after you inject your chaos. So is the system sufficiently resilient? Does it have all the high availability bells and whistles that ensure that your steady state is always maintained. Not only um, you're going to check whether the steady state is going to be maintained. Sometimes, in case of some failures, which have an impact where the availability is actually going to be gone and you're not actually going to be available for a certain period of time, how quickly you can regain your steady state, how quickly you can come back to the optimal operating characteristics. That is also something that is measured. You could have situations where an entire data center went down, an entire region went down. Yeah, you might have configured HA across regions, but your failovers may take time. There are some cases, especially unavoidable cases, you can call them corner cases. In such situations, there is bound to be certain downtime, but how quickly can you bounce back from that downtime? How quickly or how fast your service is going to start operating at the same level or the same performance level with which it was operating? That is also a measure that you didn't generally look for. So chaos experimentation is also about inducing those kind of faults into your system. So steady state, is it always maintained? That's one of the things you would look for as part of your hypothesis. Now, how far it regains steady state from a bad condition is also something that you check for during your experimentation. Is also part of your hypothesis definition sometimes. So this is an important part of chaos engineering, as we have seen. What about declarative hypothesis? Since we've been talking about cloud native chaos engineering and how Litmus is a cloud native chaos engineering tool, we'll look at what this term declarative means in the context of your hypothesis. We've discussed this before. We've looked at this slide before. What is resilience? You basically induce a fault after you've identified your steady state conditions. You're checking whether your steady state is maintained or it is regained within a certain period of time, a tolerance limit that you might have set or you might expect. And if it does conform to that expectation, then system is called resilient. Otherwise, system is termed to have a weakness. The system termed to have a weakness can be your application or it can be your deployment infrastructure. As always with chaos, it is going to show up defects in either case. When it comes to cloud native chaos engineering, and what we discussed in the previous slide is the general concept of a chaos experiment. In case of Litmus, where we are taking a cloud native or a Kubernetes native approach using custom resources, how is it different? Your steady state has to be defined as part of your custom resource. You need to be able to tell in a declarative fashion in your YAML that this is the state that I'm looking for. It could be the status of a Kubernetes resource, or it could be some metric that you're tracking. You need to be able to lay that out in your YAML and get the operators to understand what you're saying as part of that definition. So in our case, that is the Chaos Engine CR. The Chaos Engine CR, which is your user specific or user interfacing CR, experiment being the one that you would pull, which is more about defining your chaos characteristics, that is your low level definitions of chaos. The engine is the one where you're connecting your application with your chaos experiment, and is also the place where you're defining your run policies. And that is where you also need to be talking about your hypothesis, your steady state. And internally, that is the way you're defining your hypothesis, because verification of your steady state and putting that out as part of your result is what constitutes the hypothesis part in Litmus experiments. So you're going to identify a steady state and you're going to lay that down in the Chaos Engine CR. Then the experiment is going to get executed and the steady state is verified based on what you have provided in that CR, and that information needs to be then put out in the chaos result CR. So this is the steady state. This was the hypothesis, and we carried out the check against the provided checks, against the provided steady state. This is what we found, whether the check passed or the check failed, or sometimes your hypothesis might not just be restricted to one check. That is, your steady state might not be defined by just one value. It might be several things in your system. So you might even end up getting several of them to have passed your check, hypothesis check. Some of them might have failed. All that information needs to be put out for consumption into your chaos result CR. So this is what we mean by declarative hypothesis. While you're doing your experiment manually, you're probably going to look at some observability system. You might have a dashboard that's configured to show you those metrics. So you might be taking a closer look at that and checking this, what is happening. But one of the principles of chaos, let's not forget, is to be able to automate your chaos to achieve repeatability with chaos experimentation. And when automation comes in, automatically your hypothesis and checking your steady state also has to become automated. And there has to be a policy against which those checks happen. Those policies have to be defined in YAML, that is in your chaos engine CR, and you need to be able to consume that information again in YAML or as some JSON structure or in some way which can be ported to another dashboard which can show you that information. This is how your hypothesis verification went when you did the experiment, and you can measure that information over the course of several iterations of that experiment, which you might have done after tuning your system or your application, or you might have done it across several releases. So this is what we mean by declarative chaos, hypothesis in declarative chaos. So this is a summarization of what we just spoke about. When we say declarative, your hypothesis definition should be just like your chaos intent. So we have the experiment CR and we have the engine CR. We are talking about chaos intent being put out in a declarative way. The hypothesis too has to be like that. That is, the steady state check verification, which comprises your hypothesis, also has to be like that. One more important point, especially in today's cloud native or Kubernetes native world, is that your steady states are very diverse. It's not only your systemic behavior patterns like latency or error rates, for example. We have the 4 golden signals that the Kubernetes or the Google SRE book recommends. There are a lot of things that people would like to look for, very customized kind of information they look for as part of verifying the steady state. It could mean the state of a certain table inside your database, for example. It could mean the state of your custom resource. There are a lot of stateful applications today in Kubernetes which are associated with operators. There are operators which are managing the state of your resources on your Kubernetes cluster. Many applications are being associated, especially stateful applications. You can see Kafka, Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB. Similar such stateful applications are being managed by operators because the behavior of these applications on Kubernetes is basically being controlled by custom resources. The life cycle of these applications are being managed by certain custom resources which are taking care of all the day zero, day one operations. You might want to take backup, you might want to do master elections, you might want to do recoveries, you might want to ensure the right kind of HA. There are a lot of operations associated with these, especially stateful applications, which are being managed by operators, and invariably this means that the state of that application is being maintained in custom resources. So as part of your chaos, you might also want to check the status of these custom resources on your cluster to verify if things are all good. Or sometimes you might just want to be looking at some status or some particular field inside of a native Kubernetes resource. You might want to be looking at how many replicas are there eventually, whether your auto scaling has worked. So based on the amount of traffic that's being generated, do you have additional pods that have been created or no? There are a lot of checks, a lot of custom checks that people want to do considering that a lot of applications are being migrated from their legacy infrastructure into Kubernetes. A lot of scripted checks that were being performed now need to make their way into your hypothesis. And that means that the nature of your steady state and therefore its validation becomes very diverse. It could be hitting a endpoint of a service. That service could be your downstream service. You might be killing a really important infra app. There might be several downstream applications which are going to be dependent on that app. So the availability of those downstream services indicates that your infra apps HA is working. So you might be hitting an endpoint like that. You might actually be looking at the state of your databases. You might be running some Prometheus queries. You might be running some PromQL queries to see what is your metrics value. This is still traditional. This is more how you would actually even consume it on a standard application monitoring platform. You might be looking at certain metrics. You might be looking at latency percentiles, error rates, throughput values, etc. Or in other cases, like I mentioned, you might be even looking at the K8s resources. So essentially what we're trying to say is steady state and its verification can be very diverse. And we need to have a way that can be represented in a declarative manner in your YAML. The other important aspect, and this is especially important in the context of CI/CD, is that many times chaos experiments not only are used for experimentation, but they are also used as a means to do sanity checks against your applications before you go ahead and deploy them into production. So that is, you might be running a CI/CD pipeline into which you have integrated your chaos tests as probably the penultimate stage before you sort of put it into production. You might be doing this on your staging environment. So here, your steady state and your hypothesis directly maps to the SLO that you might have set, that you might have agreed upon as part of, you might be the vendor, or you might be the DevOps function guy who is actually trying to say to the developers that after meeting this SLO, we are actually going to put it on the next environment. So sometimes your steady state checks directly map to an expected result. So when we say SLO, this is very similar to what we discussed earlier, but not only is it a means for finding out the overall system capability and system sanity, it is also a way to see that the application is performing exactly the way you want it to be performing with the right values. So sometimes your chaos checks, steady state checks, actually become almost like tests where you're basically trying to find out this is the exact value that you need to be getting even when a certain failure, even when your certain component has been failed. So it becomes an expected result. So there is a subtle difference. I just wanted to insert this point here. Many times people ask, what is the difference between failure testing and chaos? There is a lot of overlap, and we've sort of gone through this in our previous discussions as well. There's a very thin line. Sometimes failure testing or testing in general is about the how. So you're not only going to validate that the system is behaving fine, but you're also trying to find out how the system is working as part of those tests. But with chaos, it's all about the end goal. You're basically ensuring the system just works. And how are you going to do that? It's through the help of SLOs and steady states, etc. There's a very thin line that's differentiating these. A chaos experiment being performed on the dev cluster in an experimental way where you're using steady state checks and your hypothesis as hints to a larger um, understanding of your product is different to the case where these experiments are being executed in a CI/CD pipeline to check sanity and to check whether your application is behaving in a certain specific way, giving you specific values for certain scenarios based on which you're actually going to push it into the next environment. Maybe promoting your application from deployment into pre-prod, from your staging into pre-prod, for example. So these are the various ways in which steady state checks and hypotheses sort of play in the area of chaos engineering. So when you sort of come to litmus chaos, come back to litmus chaos, um, when we started building out aids in the framework to do hypothesis and to do hypothesis verification and steady state checks, this is what we had as requirements in front of us. Of course, we know hypotheses are crucial. Chaos frameworks need to burn in this steady state checks into your experiments. That is where we talked about the chaos engine CR having to um, specify this information. It should be easily tuned or scaled. Sometimes, as you change your application or you get a greater awareness of your deployment environment, you might want to tune certain values. Um, Being declarative also means you can actually tune things, right? So you should be able to change timeouts. You should be able to change expected percentiles or metrics values or different other ways of checking your steady state. Your steady state itself needs to be tuned as you get a greater understanding of how things work. And it should be scaled. You should be able to do these steady state checks in a scalable way. Probably looking at if you're hitting one endpoint, you should be able to hit probably multiple endpoints. If you're looking at one resource, you should probably be able to look at more resources. Sometimes there is a need for you to combine these things. A steady state check might actually be a complex check which not only involves just one function or one validation. It might mean you checking various things in your cluster to arrive at the success of your steady state. So your hypothesis might be a complex one. It might involve several checks, subchecks. So it should be easily scaled. And it should also be able to accommodate the diverse nature of the hypothesis. So this is what we had as requirements in front of us and led us to create what we call as litmus probes. So let me introduce to you the litmus probes. Probe, as you can guess already, is a terminology that says you're going to check something. So litmus probes are nothing but pluggable checks, and I'm reading this out of the documentation, official documentation of the litmus project. It was released in 1.8. You can take a look at it. So the litmus probes are pluggable checks that you can define within the chaos engine for any chaos experiment. So these probes are going to be of different kinds, and they are going to basically execute these steady state checks, and they are going to update their results in the chaos result, like I mentioned. And you have them executing in different modes. So probes or steady state checks are not something that you would only do in the beginning and at the end of your experiment. It is something that you might also do over the course of chaos itself. So while chaos is happening, while you're injecting your chaos and components are being killed, it is at that time that you really need to check what's happening with your steady state. It's not something that you only test in the beginning and the end. Of course, they are valid as well in some scenarios. In most scenarios, you also want to check it while your chaos is actually happening. And this is something that is especially used along with some other aid like a benchmark run, for example. We talked about litmus chaos workflows in our previous episode, where we said you can do a benchmark run on your Nginx application, and then you can do your pod deletes and then check how your error rates are coming. So sometimes you don't want to only check that right at the end. You want to ensure whether some application trying to reach your infra app, for example, via Nginx, is always able to reach it, even during your chaos experiment when the chaos is going on. So there are different modes of doing chaos, and there are some standard properties that you would associate with any chaos experiment. I mean, any probe, such as timeouts for your probe, for your checks. Sometimes you're trying to make a check, trying to look at a metric, or trying to execute a command, trying to access a Kubernetes resource, and it's basically not responding for over a period of time. It could mean several things. It could mean that your chaos has actually debilitated your system, you found a weakness, or sometimes it's possible that um, the check is not successful because you've lost a connectivity with your cluster, or you might probably have some other problems where the chaos infrastructure itself might be compromised. There might be a lot of cases. So you define timeouts for these checks, and then you also specify retries in cases where you know that system is probably going to take a few seconds to recover, which is okay and tolerated within your hypothesis, etc. So there are some standard properties that you associate with your probes. So we'll talk about these probes. We'll introduce the different types of probes and their modes, which you're seeing on screen, and then we'll do a short demo in which we'll actually go ahead and show you a live app. It's a SockShop based microservices demo in which we're actually going to induce some chaos while doing a steady state check continuously during the chaos. And we will see what happens to that probe, how that steady state check is carried out, and how its results are represented in your chaos results here. We'll take a look at that shortly. For now, we'll just go through the various probes that Litmus provides. Before going to probes, one more point that I would like to make, also remind you, is you might have seen a lot of application-specific chaos experiments on the Chaos Hub. You saw experiments on Cassandra, Kafka, OpenEBS, etc. So there was a question in the community when we created these probes, that now that we have a declarative way to carry out custom checks during standard chaos, like pod deletes or network loss or disk loss, what is the need to create application specific experiments? I might as well add application specific probes in a chaos engine CR, carry out those checks. One of the things I would like to clarify is application specific experiments sometimes have a lot of a very, very specific context. Probes can be used, of course, to check application specific steady states. You could actually go ahead and write a SQL query as part of your steady state check using the Litmus probes. I'll show you that example in subsequent episodes. You could do that, but sometimes you might want to do more complex checks, and to create very, very complex checks as part of your declarative representation can get confusing, messy, and sometimes even counterproductive to the intent of doing declarative hypothesis. If there are some very, very application specific checks, if there's a lot of specific context that you want to build into your experiment, it's always good to create separate experiments and maintain them rather than use the existing experiments and add probes. So there's a very thin line, and that's best left to the practitioners of and users of the Litmus chaos to make that distinction. Whenever you're doing very, very specific cases, like for example in Kafka chaos, there is a liveness pod that's brought up which emulates a producer consumer scenario and tries to induce some chaos, check out the message timeouts at the consumer side, and identify the actual broker, which is the partition leader, do the kills. These are all very specific to that experiment, to that application, and therefore needs to be a separate experiment. Whereas in some cases, you might want to just reuse existing experiments but want to insert a couple of additional checks to see whether your app is really online. In that case, you could go ahead with the generic experiments and add the Litmus probes there. So there are a lot of ways in which you can use this. You can use probes both without both inside of a normal generic chaos experiment, an experiment in the generic suite. You could also use them within application specific experiments, or you could choose to write experiments that are very specific to your own business case and maintain them as a separate chart as well. Okay, so this being said, there are three types of Litmus probes today, and there might be more as we extend this framework. One is the HTTP probe. This actually goes ahead and pings an endpoint that you specify in your chaos engine CR and ensures that the response that you get when you make that query is always going to match the expected response. Sometimes you want a positive response, that is, you want to get a 200 status code when you're trying to curl a a URL, when you're trying to do a GET request, sometimes you want to ensure that a certain service is not there. It could be to verify whether the chaos has actually happened. Sometimes it also is part of your steady state check in some experiments. So you can provide your status code and match the value that you're getting. The expected status code is mapped to the actual status code, and that will determine the success of this probe and thereby the steady state check. The next one is command probe. This is especially introduced to help you to perform custom checks via bash commands or shell commands. Many times you want to look at the state of your cluster by executing certain shell commands. You might run a kubectl command as well, but there's a K8s probe to do that. We'll talk about it. But you could also want to run some commands where you are going to test the state of integrity of your database, for example, or you're looking for a certain value in certain files, or you're looking for a string in your logs, etc. So you can use a command probe to do those kind of checks. And command probe interestingly has two, it has a very interesting option called inline image mode and source image mode. We'll discuss that shortly. What it means is sometimes you can just use the Litmus Go runner image, that is the experiment image, to carry out command probes. Sometimes you might want other images which has the right dependencies and tooling which you want to execute this probe, and you can actually specify those as well. K8s probe is when you want to check the status of certain native or custom Kubernetes resources. You want to list them by certain properties and filters as part of your steady state check. So K8s probes help you to do that. And each of these probe can be executed in 4 different modes. SOT, which means at the pre-chaos stage, right at the beginning of the experiment. EOT, or end of test, or right at the end of your experiment, the post-chaos stage. Edge, which is both in the beginning and at the end of the test. So you're basically checking for an entry and exit criteria. And continuous, which is one of the most used modes, which is where you're going to check the, you're going to execute the probe, or you're going to execute the check continuously against your application as the, or your infra as the chaos is going on. And probe timeouts are basically going to tell you that your probe is not successful after a certain point. And if it can be tolerated, you can give a retry count with interval, and you are going to execute those probes again with the interval being the period between 2 successive checks or successive iterations of the probe. If it recovers within this retry period, then the probe is marked success, otherwise it is marked as a failure. So you can look at the documentation to look at the detailed schema. So inside of the Chaos Engine spec, you can have the HTTP probe defined like this, where it has a name attribute, and it has an input field where we're specifying the URL against which the HTTP queries are executed, and the response code. Right now it supports GET. There are efforts going on to increase what all kind of HTTP queries we can make from this probe. And each probe, like we discussed, has the mode and certain run properties which talk about the timeout and retry intervals, etc. So probe polling interval is something that is specific to the continuous mode, and it is going to help you to keep making those checks against the URL every few seconds defined by the polling interval. This is different from the interval that's defined for retries, which is going to come into picture when there has been a failed probe. The command probe is also very similar. It has an expected result, the command, the expected result, and the source inside the input. Source is where you specify the image where you're going to execute the probe. You can provide an image repository and tag here, and a pod is going to be created with this information, and the command is going to be executed from within that particular pod. And this also can be executed in different modes, continuous, edge, or SOT, or EOT. And the K8s probe is where the inputs talk about the group version resource, where you're basically specifying the custom resource or the native resource groups. For example, you might say litmuschaos.io v1 alpha1, and the kind is Chaos Engine. or you could say it is apps and it is v1 and it is a deployment, and then you can provide a field selector or a label selector to list those Kubernetes resources. So how is this actually going to get represented on your KSCR? So we have introduced a new section in the result status called as probe status, and probe status is actually going to tell you what happened to each probe by name and status. It's going to tell what mode it was executed in and whether it was succeeded or it was failed. And there is a probe success percentage which is going to tell you, which is essentially a ratio of passed probes versus the totally defined probes. And if all the probes pass, it is called 100% pass, otherwise you will get a lesser percentage. And the verdict of the experiment is set to pass if the probe success percentage is 100 today. There are efforts to change this to hold a threshold, which also you can define in the chaos engine, and if a certain threshold is met, the experiment result is deemed pass. Right now, the experiment verdict is set to fail even upon a single probe being failed. So this is the litmus probes, which are executing checks to verify steady state as part of the larger hypothesis that you are defining in a declarative way in the chaos engine. So with this introduction, let's move to a demo where we are going to look at a SockShop application. We are going to kill a microservices, one of the dependent microservices for the SockShop front end, which is a UI like this. We are going to kill one of the dependent microservices, and we are going to see how that is going to impact the front end. And we are going to create a probe to look at the front end access, and we're going to check how the probe is actually going to carry out its function and how it's going to patch the information in the chaos result. We're going to do both the positive and negative case, where we will do this experiment with a single replica of the dependent microservice called catalog, and then we will scale it up and do it and see how the probe behaves in the both the cases, and you'll get an idea of how you can use probes using that demo. So as you can see, I have a SockShop microservices demo application installed on my multi-node GKE cluster. All the microservices are in running state. You can see that the front end, the UI of this application has been exposed. Load balancer, I have an external IP associated with it. There are a lot of dependent microservices. So the front end depends upon the catalog, for example. And I also have Litmus installed here. I have the 1.8 release operator as well as the experiments running on my cluster. I have also opened up on another terminal a watch against the pods in the SockShop namespace and a watch against the pods on the Litmus namespace so that we can track what happens as part of the experiment. The catalog pod is the one that we're going to target and kill. It's a single replica deployment, and it has a readiness probe which is going to take some time in starting up. So whenever we do the pod delete, the service is actually going to take some time. The number of containers in this pod is just one, so you can see this one of one containers is actually going to take some time to actually get into ready state. Now we are going to do this pod delete, and the check that we are going to do, our steady state check, is going to be the availability test against the front end URL. Now let me introduce you to the chaos engine that we are going to run as part of this experiment. You are quite familiar with the chaos engine. The application information here is referring to the catalog service, and there are overrides here. I'm just going to do the experiment for a period of 10 seconds. So it's going to be interval of 10 as well, so it's going to be just one iteration of pod delete. The section that's of interest to us in this discussion is the HTTP probe. We saw this HTTP probe. I introduced you to its schema in the doc. I have this probe named HTTP probe here, and have the URL, the cluster IP with the port of the front end service. And when I try to access this, when I try to get operation, expectation is I receive a 200 OK response code. And we are running this probe in the continuous mode, which means I'm going to run this HTTP GET query every 1 second. I have a timeout of 2 seconds with a retry of just one time. So that means if I do fail with the probe, then we're going to try just once again. So this is what I have, and we're going to do this experiment twice, once with a single replica of the catalog and then with a multi-replica catalog deployment to see the difference in the way the microservice is going to behave in the way in which our probe behaves. So let's get started with this. So we've just started the experiment. I have run the Chaos engine here. Immediately after this, let's take a look at our SockShop front end. At this point, the runner is still getting created. So I can see that my catalog is visible. The front end is fully accessible. Let me go back and check what's happening. My Chaos runner has got created and the pod delete pod also has got created. And you can see that the catalog pod has just been killed. It's going to take some time to come back to ready state. And we are also running load. It's something that I forgot to mention. You can see that the front end just underwent a restart. It changed from 3 to 4 here as the catalog got restarted. You can see the load happening here. I can just show you the pods where the load test is being attempted. And this is one of the important catches when running chaos experiments. It's always good to have some kind of application load that's ongoing rather than to have them in idle state. This front end, as you can see, is not going to be accessible fully to me. The catalog is not getting listed, and the catalog service is still coming up, and the experiment is still running. So the chaos duration is just for 10 seconds, but the experiment itself is going to run for a longer period of time. Let me talk about that for a second here. For that, we'll just go back to the chaos engine. So you can see that the total chaos duration is 10 seconds, but the experiment pod is still alive. Why is that? That's because the experiment as a whole does a few things other than just do the chaos injection. There are pre-checks and post-chaos checks, and also tolerance seconds maintained for the application to come back. So by default, it is 180 seconds. You can tweak that by doing a components dot status check timeout, where you specify what's your retry and what's going to be your delay seconds. That will determine for how long we are going to wait for the target application pods to come back online before we exit the experiment. We stop it. By default, it's 3 minutes. It's 180 seconds. So that can be changed here. And one more thing of note is the portion here, which I introduced as the probe definition, contains these run properties which are having details of the probe timeout and the retry counts and intervals. So this is different from your application status check that I just mentioned that you can change. Status check timeout that you can specify inside of the spec here. That's about waiting for your applications, that AUT, the application under test, to come back online. This is about how long you want your probe to run if there is a problem. So let's say your probe timed out. I've set that timeout as 2 seconds. So if I'm not able to get the response code when I do a HTTP GET at this URL for 2 seconds, we're going to terminate that and we're going to retry it once more. And if I'm going to do it for more times, if there are more retries, then I'm also going to make use of an interval between those retries, which I can specify here. And the probe polling interval, as we discussed, is the period of the probe itself. That's the polling interval for the requests made to this endpoint. Now, the values that I've set here is aligned with my duration here. If I have a larger duration, I can actually set a different set of values. Depends upon what is the hypothesis and how long you're going to spend before you're going to call the probe failure. Let's take a look at what's happening with the experiment right now. I'm going to look at the chaos results. We have patched the chaos result initially, and I have the chaos result here. Initially it gets patched with the status that says the experiment is actually got started and the probe status is awaited, but after it completes it's going to say the probe has failed, and the verdict is failed because the probe success percentage is not 100. And you're also going to get an event which you could probably use and convert it into a Prometheus metric. You can track this as well, or you can just use it to generate a report to say this is what happened in the course of the experiment. So you can see that the HTTP probe to the front-end URL failed, but I think the experiment would have concluded by now. Yeah, it has concluded, and the catalog pod also has come to ready state. The containers are ready. That's one by one here, and I think I can load my URL right now. Yeah, so the ViewSock application is back, but with a 1 second probe timeout, and with a load test going, when I deleted the catalog pod, you could clearly see that I was not able to access the URL and the probe failed. The test result would have been different had the probe been configured in edge mode, where we were only looking at the status of this URL before and after the chaos, or had we set the condition for recovery period. Right now we were doing a ping every 1 second, and when I deleted the catalog pod, the microservice called frontend went down for some time. The UI was not accessible, the probe failed. Right now, what happens when I repeat the same test but with a better configuration, with a better deployment practice? I'm going to remove this chaos result. I can just keep it and patch it once again, but just for clarity and illustration purposes, I'm going to delete this chaos result so that I don't want two events to sort of get appended here. We want a new event created, a new result resource created. So I'm just going to clear this, and I'm also going to scale the catalog replica. So let me do that. The name of the deployment is catalog. I'm going to scale it to 2 replicas, and it is in Sockshop. That has been scaled. It's actually going to take a few seconds, a few minutes actually, for the second catalog pod that has been spawned up to come to ready state, for the container to be ready. We're going to wait for a few minutes, get this to ready state, and then we're going to do the experiment. The experiment is going to be the same. We are going to do a catalog pod kill. It's going to be a single pod kill iteration. 10 seconds of duration by 10 seconds of interval is just one kill. But the difference being, the catalog service is actually going to be load balancing between these two pods. We have 2 pods now. Even though one is going to be deleted, the catalog service is still going to be alive because there's another pod alive, and the probe is expected to pass this time, and the application is also expected to be alive. And I'm going to do a refresh next time. I'm not going to see the condition where the catalog is not loading. So that is the expectation. So let's wait for a few seconds for this pod to come alive. I'm going to drag that here. It typically takes a few minutes. So let's pause for a bit and continue when this is back online. So we have the Sockshop application with 2 catalog replicas right now. So you can see both are in running state. Now let's restart the experiment. I'm going to apply the chaos engine once again. As you know from our previous episodes, you can actually recreate your chaos engine despite the modes, cleanup modes that you've used. So though there are some completed chaos pods, they're going to be evicted and they're going to be removed, and new pods are going to be created. So we can see that the new pods are getting created. The old runner and pod delete experiment pods have been removed. And this time I'm going to kill just one of these pods. The pod delete experiment is now started, and you can see one of these just underwent a restart. During this time, I can see that my SockShop front end continues to operate without any hassle. My UI is still visible, the front end is still accessible. You can also see that the front end did not undergo a restart, right? It did not face any connectivity issues with the catalog service because there's one of these pods which is already running successfully, right? And you can see that this pod which just underwent a restart is going to take a few minutes to get back into ready state, but the application itself is not gone down the downstream app. In this case, the front end is successful. The queries here are not affected. The probe, in this case, I remember that we just deleted the kiosk result, so we have a new result that would have got created, and it will be patched with the initial data that the result and the probe status is awaited. So let's take a look at that state of the kiosk result before looking at the failure. You can see that the HTTP probe status as well as the experiment status is awaited. Last time when we looked at the result, it was after the experiment execution where we saw the final patch of the result where it said better luck next time and the probe is failed and the 0% probe success percentage was seen. Now you will actually see that this will be successful and you will get a passed probe. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the logs of the kiosk result pod, logs of the kiosk experiment pod. When the probe is successful or it has failed, it is actually going to give out the right log saying your probe is successful or it is not successful. It's also going to log information about when the probe has got started. Especially in case of edge modes, you will see logs pertaining to the start and complete of the probe at the respective stages of pre-chaos and post-chaos. In this case, we are going to log as well as patch the result towards the end of the experiment, but you could still see what's happening as part of the experiment right now. So in this log, you can see that the application status check is ongoing. We mentioned that we have a default timeout, status check timeout of 180 seconds. So we're going to wait for that period for all the continuous to come online. And it says it's killing this application pod, etc., etc. There's no information about the probe right away. This is going to give us information about the probe after the experiment has completed. Now you can actually see that it has completed, and you can see the application is under test is actually successfully running, and the HTTP probe has been passed. This log also contains some keys like what is the probe type, what is the probe instance, etc. So the experiment probe is successful. For the continuous mode, we are going to do a probe right at post chaos. The check happens continuously during the chaos. It's carried out continuously, but the patching and the logging happens towards the end. That's something that we could always change based on feedback. So you can take a look at the result as well. Let's take a look at the chaos result now. And you can see that the HTTP probe has passed. And thereby, since we had a single probe, the probe success percentage is 100 and the verdict also is passed. So this was a very quick demonstration of how the probes work. So what do we do with these probes? Yeah, they do check steady state, and they help in validating your hypothesis, executing your hypothesis, so to say. But there are also some benefits that you can get from these probes. You could actually chain probes. That's one of the important things that we are looking at implementing in subsequent releases, where there's a lot of community feedback around chaining probes. Many times steady state is defined not just by the check against one downstream app, maybe it's against several, or sometimes you take the information that you get from one probe and use it as an input for another probe. This is especially true in case of command probes and k-test probes, where you gather information and then actually use it in a subsequent probe. Maybe you try to get the nodes where your applications are residing in, and then do a check against pods on that node, etc. And also one other thing is the probe success percentage can be used as a resilience indicator when you have, especially when you have more probes. This percentage is going to sort of tell you how resilient your applications are becoming or your infra is becoming. So you could start off with a lower percentage value with more probes defined in your engine and slowly and steadily move up your resiliency score, and the probe success percentage is a good indicator of how well your improvements are taking place in your application or infrastructure. And there are also plans to support more number of probes. The HTTP command and KTS probes are some initial requirements that we got and implemented. There are probe types such as native Prometheus probes, prompt probe, which can actually execute Prometheus queries. If you have an exporter already in your cluster, or if your applications are exposing some metrics, you can actually use the PromQL queries against Prometheus probe. There will be a schema that will be created for that probe, much in the same fashion as the command probe and the other ones. So you can actually execute queries and obtain the values and use that as part of your steady state analysis as well. There are other probes which we have not demoed during this episode. This was more about introducing the concept of hypothesis generally, and declarative hypothesis for cloud native QoS engineering, and a sample of how it works in Litmus. There are a lot of other experiments we could do, application specific experiments, application specific checks inserted as probes. We'll probably take a look at those in subsequent episodes. As we discussed, this is a multi-part series on probes. We will take a look at other probes, and also we will track enhancements made to this probe feature in subsequent releases as part of this series. So that's all we have for today in this session around hypothesis and probes. Feel free to post your questions on the Litmus Slack, or you can always reach out to us over GitHub issues as well. So thank you for your time and patience in listening to this. Thank you.